We did the Mishnah here yesterday on Daf Lamed Gimel Amid Beis, and towards the bottom of the Amud we have the Gemara. The Mishnah says Echlifu, and the Mishnah says that they made a mistake, and he came home with the wrong wife, and the other one with the wrong wife. And this sounds like it's a case of Mazin. So the Gemara says, "Echlifu midei b'rishoy askina." I mean, what's going on over here? We're dealing with evil people, and not only that, the Mishnah says that after this terrible thing happens, then they go back to normal marriage at some point, which would not be halachically valid or acceptable if there was a mazid situation. So the word Echlifu sounds like they did a Maisa HaKlofim. And furthermore, Hatani Rabbi Chia, on this Mishnah we have a Brisa Rabbi Chia, and there are 4 Isurim of Arayos over here. There's Eishes Ish, Eishes Ach, Achos Isha, and Nida, Harekan Sheshes Rechatos. Now, how do we get to the number 16 Chatos over here? There are 4 people that violated 4 Isurim. Right, so what's the case in the Brisa? Second. We did this yesterday, but I don't see it now in front of me. Oh, here it is. Ve'im hayu achim mishum eishes ach. Ve'im hayu achios mishum isha lachos. Ve'im hayu nidos mishum nida. No, that doesn't jack it up to 4 people. One second. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, it's he and she. Sorry. Right? So there are 4 arayos that are being violated by 2 people. So, one second. No, I'm sorry. There are 4 people. Right? There's he and she and he and she. So that's 4 people, and 4 arayos is 4 times 4. The even mazid mika carbon. There's no carbon. It's not amazing. Chatas is only on the shoulder. On Rabbi Yehuda Tani Huchuf, you have to change the text of the Mishnah from Hechlifa, which sounds like they deliberately did it, to Huchuf. It was a mistake. And Hachinam Mistablik Tani Seifim Hayuk Tado Sheinu Ru'uyot Tzleile Machzirin Osan Miyah. Right, the whole problem was Havchana. We weren't sure whether the Vlad was a result of that Achlafa, was born out of Achlafa, and it's a mamzin. But in the case of a Ketana, she can't give birth if she's less than 12 years old, and therefore we don't have any problem of Havchana to determine whether she's pregnant or not. She can't be pregnant. And therefore, the marriage relationship is resumed immediately. For V'meza B'shari, I mean, we have a halacha of V'nitma, Echel L'Baal, Echel L'Boen. So if it was a Znus B'mezid, she can no longer go back to her husband. So the Gemara rejects it. Oh, Lokash. You have not yet convinced me from the fact that the Mishnah speaks about a Ketana, that Machzirin or Samiyad, that we're talking about Shogeg and not Mezid. Why? We could say it's a case of Mezid. How does the Mishnah allow her to go back to her husband? That's because Pitu Ketana Onus. The Onus B'Yisrael, Misra Shari. And even if a Ketana is a willing, consenting partner to an adulterous znus relationship, that's not considered ratzon. That's considered onus. Even though, again, she was convinced and persuaded to participate, and she made a decision that she will allow herself to be victimized in this way. Right? Then there will be an adultery, but nevertheless, it doesn't generate an isur tuma because it's a case of onus. Interesting. What would be if she was married to a Kohen? Anybody mention anything about a Kohen here? It says onus be Yisrael Mishra. Let's see if somebody picks up on this. Oh, Baruch Shekivan. Aval Abayla Kohen Asura Afban Nusa. Okay, good. So we're on the right track. Hello. So again, we started with Bershoy Askinon, but then we had the business about Karbonos. So I'm not sure why the Gemara is still looking for proofs over here that it's a shogeg, not amazing. The very fact that we talk about Chatos. Elo Diktonim Afrishino Son Shlosha Chadosh and Shema Mubaro saying, I think what we're saying here is that why are we going to delay resuming the marriage relationship? It's only because of the chashash that maybe they were pregnant. But in and of itself, we would allow them to go back to their husbands. Olav mubaros, if not for the chashash of muberes during that 3-month period of time, sharia, they would go back to their husbands. The ibemezin mishari. Meaning, even after you pass the Shloshah Chadach and you've resolved the problem of Muberes, still have another problem, and that's Echel Abal, Echel Aboel, and Tumah. But it must be a case of Shogeg. Elav Shmami no shehuchlefu b'Shogeg. L'chein, I'm reading his note over here. He writes, the Yad, the Acher Shloshah Chadach, Shetzich Lahamta Mishum Din Avchana, Mutaros L'Balei. Shmami. I'm just not sure why the Gemara is not satisfied with the fact that there's no carbon on a mazit. 1 second. Lamed Aleph. Oh, I see. Oh, wow. We have to learn the set of creases for this. There's something called mazit be'isur v'shogeg ba'onesh, meaning you might actually be amazing because you're aware of the fact that it's prohibited, but you're not aware of the, let's say, for example, the severity of the issue. You don't know what the punishment is like. And I think there's a Gemara, if I'm not mistaken, in Creases that establishes that in such case you do bring a chat. No, you could be mazed in the Isur and shogig in the Onish. And the nafkamina is that you have to bring a korban chatas in such a case. So therefore, there's no final conclusion, absolute convincing raya from the fact that there are X number of korbanos that have to be brought, which implies that we're talking about a shogig, because it might just be a shogig ba'onesh, but a mazid be'is. And that would justify why it says a khalifa, because they did this deliberately. Okay. Now we turn to Daf Lamed Daled. Here we have a long introduction. Now our Mishnah assumes that Isur Chalal Isur. And we're going to try to prove that according to our Mishnah, Isur Chalal Isur will apply in any one of three scenarios, the three combinations. Number one, an Isa Kolel. Number two, an Isur Mosif. And number three, Shnei Isurim Shechalim B'Vasachas. So let's go through all three cases. There are two brothers that married two sisters, which means that each one violated not only Eshes Ish, but also Eshes Achiv, and they were Nidos. And the Tana establishes that they have to bring 4 chatos for each one. Each one has 4 chatos. Oh, and also, since they're married to two sisters, then it's it's Achos Ishto. So we have number 1, Eshes Ish, number 2, Eshes Ach, number 3, Achos Isha, number 4, Nid. So he has the following: Ruvain Nasa es Rachel, and at that point Rachel becomes Asura l'Shimon because it's Eshes Achiv, and also, of course, Eshes Ish. Now, both of those Isurim emerge simultaneously. With that marriage, she becomes an Eshes Ish, she becomes Eshes Achiv. We're going to say now that the reason why there are 2 chatos is because Isur Chal Isur B'Basach. Now, Shimon marries Leah, the sister of Rachel, and now Rachel's status vis-a-vis Shimon is an additional Erva Machos Ishto. And that Isur is going to be Chal Midin Isur Kolel. Sha'agav shenesru olav shar ha'achil shalea ishta. In other words, Rachel now, vis-a-vis Shimon, is just one example of the erva of achos ishta, meaning when Shimon marries Leah, and Rachel becomes achos ishto, then Rivka also becomes an erva. So that's called an Isur Kolel. Now Reuven's wife Rachel becomes a Nida, and we add another erva, another Isur of Nida onto Shimon. Why? That's called an Isur Mosif. Let's just see. I'm going to cover the next few words because I want to see if I can guess. Because everybody is also on a need. We told Shenosiba Isul Gabi Baila Shoisu Muteres Ad Lashazu. Not sure why he. Just 1 second. Oh, yeah, that what I said is not right because she's already an Eshes Ish. She's right. Rachel is married to Reuven. So the fact that Rachel became a Nida, that's not going to expand the Isurim. You can't expand on an Isur of Eshes Ish. What you could expand upon is the Isur to Shimon. Just 1 second. No, I'm sorry, it's the Isur to Reuven. So that's called an Isur Kolel. No, I'm sorry. That's called an Isur Mosif. After all this involvement in the sugya, I still get confused sometimes between Isur Kolel and Isur Mosif. Okay. Now, let's just reiterate the machlokas between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon back on Daf Lamed Beis with regard to Isur Chal Isur. The Gemara is going to now try to prove that none of the Shitos will accept Isur Chal Isur in all 3 categories. Man Tahai Tana, who's the Tana by Mishnah? Islay Isur Kol, Isur Mosif, Isur Basar. I was hoping he would elaborate a little bit more on this. I guess he's assuming we know the sugi back on Lamed Beis by heart. I think the machlokus was about Isur Kolel and possibly about Basafas. But everybody agrees that at some point we're going to say Ein Isur Chalons. So let's see, maybe he'll flesh it out. Rabbi Yehuda Rav Rabbi Meir. Tisnan. So Mishnah Krisus. Yesh ochel achila achas v'chayev oleh arba chatos v'yoshem ech. Tamei sha'ochal chelev v'hu nosar min hamukdash b'yom hakippur. So we have a din of chelev, and the chelev of behema is asur b'achila. It's mutar b'hana, but it's also b'achila. Now a person became amei. So the chelev now becomes Isur Kodesh. So wait a minute, I'm a little confused. Are we talking about chulin here? Or are we talking about Kodesh? I understand. Before he was magdich the animal, it already had an Isur Chelev. So the Isur Chelev predates the Isur Achilas Kodesh when he's tummy. So why is the second Isur, right? We're saying he's Chayav Arba Chatos. So what's the second Isur? Is Tamei Shachal Hegdesh. Why is that Chal on Chelev? Because Isur Kolel. Okay, why is this called an Isur Kolel? Maybe because the animal has many different parts to it, not just the chelev. All the basar becomes kodshim that is prohibited for a tummy. So that's called an Isur Kolel. In such a case, Rabbi Meir holds Isur Chalalis. Not sure how we know. We're not up to Rabbi Meir. This is the Tanakh. Now, in addition, there's another Isur here called Me'ilah. And that's going to be an Isur Mosef. Maybe because of Isur Hano. Let's see. Hari mitchila haya aser olav chelev zerak b'achila b'shehuktisha behema Nesar Olav Achile Af Bahano. That's a din of Mukdash. So that's what we call an Isser Mosif. Okay, now it becomes Nosar. And Nosar is going to be an Isser Mosif. Why? Why an Isser Mosif when it becomes Nosar? He says in Mitoch, or in Nifsel Me'akrov. What's going on? So let's go over this again. So stage number one, the animal is born and its chaylev is us, rachil. Now he's tamei, and we're dealing with kachim. And a tamei shachal kachim is that includes not only the chaylev, but all the other pieces of bus. Hence, it's an Isser color. It's an Isser color. Now we're going to add an Isser Hanma, and that's called an Isser Mosif because of the Ilah. So we now have three Isur. We have the Isur Achilas Chelev, which applies to Chulu. Now we have an Isur of Tamei Shachal Kodesh, which applies uniquely to Basar exclusively to Basar. And now we have the Isur Me'ilah. What else? No, sir. No. Trying to figure out what exactly makes Nosar an Isur Mosif. Shemitoch shenesach chilev legavoa. Shemitoch nesar gam hejod ilu. The missing part, piece of the puzzle for me here is the Nosar business. Nosar also an Mosif. Does he have anything there in your notes about nosar? I'm not happy. What's the mosif here in the case of
nosar is easier to everyone. Because sends to more people.
Wait a minute, before it came nosar, so what do you do with chaylev of kachim? You burn it on the mizbeh.
Right. Or just nosar in general. Before we do nosar for others that could eat. Now,
Oh, I know what it means. Yeah, go ahead, finish up.
you can't answer for all the other.
I'm going to offer another possibility. Well, maybe mine is very similar to yours. Let me just think about it. What I wanted to suggest was that Alev of Behemoth Kodshim is designated for the Mizbech, meaning for the Marach, for the Eish of the Mizbech. There's a mitzvah HaKtorah al Gabi Mizbech. But that only applies within the allotted time. Let's say Kodshim is 1 day and 1 night, and Kodshim Kalim on 2 days and 1, whatever the allotted time is. After that, when it becomes nosar, you're adding an Isa with Mizbech. You can no longer be maktir on the Mizbech. So the logic is that the Isser Mizbeach now expands to include Adam as well. I'm not sure how that works, but whatever is also the Mizbeach is also to Adam, and that's the Torah's Nosa. And that's why the Torah requires Streifa. Why don't you just say that Nosar can't be brought on the Mizbeach, but we'll eat it? We can't eat it, no. So what we're saying is that once the Isser is out, the Mizbeach we're adding a whole new Isser. It's not like an Isser Kolel where because he's Tameh, he's not allowed to eat any part of the animal. So we expanded the Isser from Chalev to encompass the whole animal. That becomes an Isser Mosa. But now we're talking, that becomes an Isser Kolel. An Isser Kolel. But now we're adding Isser Mosa, which is an entirely new category of an Isser. And that is anything that was disqualified from his bath is now prohibited to Achilas Adam. I don't know. It's, at least in the Masechet, it's very vague. He writes, Shemitok Chanesar Elav Zela Gavoa, because it became Nosar, Are Nifsal Me'akrova, Nesar Gam Leheja Pachi. I think what he means here, Nesar Gam Leheja Lachila, by virtue of its being Nosar. And that's an Isser Mos. Meaning it's not also because it's Chalev or because it's Kodshim and you're a Tameh. or because it's Me'ilin Kodesh. It's also with an Achila, the Isra Achila B'Torah's Psulei HaMakdoshim, Psulei HaMizbeh. Now he says, Uliachim Mikak Shechal Yom HaKippurim. Chalav Af Isra Achila B'Yom HaKippurim. And why is that called an Isa Kolel? Shemitoch shenesar be'achivas shar chatichos b'yom zeh. So we're no longer limited to the body of the animal. I mean, we went from Chelev through Tomei to include the entire body of the animal. Now we're going beyond the body of the animal, and anything is also a new body. So that makes it into an Isa Kolel. So we now have, on top of the Isra Chelev, we have an Isra Achila B'Yom HaKippurim. Yeah. So all told, we have 5. And when it says Arba Chatos Kosher Nechad, it's because of Me'ilah. Me'ilah is one of the 5. For Me'ilah, you don't bring a Chatos, but rather you bring an Asham Me'ilah. It's one of the 5 categories of Hashamos. Now we have to add that Nosar and Tameh, and of course Chelev itself, Chelev of Chulin, are all Isurei Krisa. Otherwise, why do you bring the Chatos? So what are we getting from this whole thing? We see that Isur Chalal Isur, in the cases of Isur Kolel and Isur Mosef. Do we have also Vasachas? Which is the animal was born and it was an Isur Chel. On top of Isur Chelev, you're adding an Isur Tameh, which is also, I guess, he doesn't. Then on top of Isur Tameh, you're adding Me'ilah. And on top of Me'ilah, you're adding Nosar. On top of Nosar, you're adding Yom HaKippur. I'm inclined to think that this is Rabbi Yosef, because Rabbi Shimon, that was the one. Wasn't it Rabbi Shimon who said that you're only Chayva? No. Did I get that right? Yeah. You have to be Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Meir Omer M'chaisa Shabbos. What does Shabbos have to do with this? He's eating chelev. V'otzio b'fiv. So I guess he was chewing while he's walking, if I understand this correct. And he carries it from Rishus HaYochid to Sarab Chayav. He's got an additional carbon. Or Maleches Otso, which is one of the 39 malachas that generates a Chiv Misa and a Chiv Kari. He says here, "V'yafal gad di ein derech otso b'peh mikom makom b'dvar machal areiz an echshav l'derech otso v'chayvel of chat." It's a whole discussion of why it doesn't mention Yom Kippur here. Now, I'm not sure what category Shabbos adds. We spoke about this one, right? I don't think we were talking about Achila. And we were talking about Masechet Shabbos because he did the avodah, he was a Zar. So let's see, maybe that's what the Chacham are going to object to. Omru lo, eino min Hashem. Meaning, this has nothing to do with Isur Chalis. He violates Masechet Shabbos with the Masechet Hotzah. This is purely coincidental. I mean, all the other Isurim, and we counted up 5, are all Isuri Achila. He writes here, Ein limnos chiyuv zeh yachim shara chiyuv shechayom al achila. Kevan she'ein chiyuv zeh al achila al meleches hotzah. I mean, it could be that through the achila he's carrying. That doesn't matter. Shara chiyuv mashnu mishnayim kulam al achila. Ach Rabbi Meir so. Rabbi Meir sober. Isra Hotzah because they're shaykh Isra Achila. Kim she was chayv al shas habliya. She chashuva kehanochel gabe Hotzah samaychol. Wow. But we can't say any Isra Chalisa because it's not an Isra Achila. It's shaykh to Isra Achila.
I think down, and this is a Basaka.
He's saying this is a Basaka situation?
Swallowed with the 2 Isra.
That's a gigantic machlokus, whether in Isra Achila you need to swallow it. Well, let's say we're assuming you need to swallow it, and at that moment, he violates the Isra Shabbos. But again, I don't know if you need the Pasach business, Steve, unless they say it. I mean, if you're reading it, then I can't argue.
But isn't that the point?
No,
I'm trying to get.
I don't think Masachas should be relevant because what are you talking about? You're talking about an Isra Hotzah Shabbos. What's the Havamina? You know, Masachas is coming to solve the problem. Ein Isra Chal Isra. You're chai for both because they both emerge simultaneously. But I don't see a problem of Isra Chal Isra over here.
I didn't think. I thought they were just trying to generate a case that had Koel, Mosif, and Basachas all in the same
right,
case.
but again, it's got to be Basacha. It's not because you violate 2 Isur Basacha. Like, for example, if I do Harisha during Shvius and it's also Shabbos, and it also is Yom Tov, I wouldn't say Basachas there. That's just, I did one action and I violated a host of different Isurim. Vasachas is a powerful force within the constellation of any Sechal Lisa to tell you no. In this case, both Yisurim will be Chal Vasach. Like, for example, if you, unless you're going to talk about Shtei Saras again, but if you would ask me at what moment in time does the Isur of carrying something in your mouth emerge, it would be with Ben Hashmoshes on Leil Shab. Whereas the Isur of Chelev and Me'ila and so forth, the Tameh and all those Isurim, that those would have been Chal way before, right after, you know what I'm saying? Reminds you that it's Erev Rosh Chodesh. I don't know. I'm a little confused here. No, it's the Chachamim, I think, are making a good point there. Eino min Hashem. The answer to that is that, well, this is also Shayach L'Isach. He used the word Shayach. But I don't understand. When you violate various Surim with one Pa'ula, Isach Al-Isach is like I don't know. Okay, that's a little bit confusing. Anyway, he says the following: Hochicha Gemara midivrei Rabbi Meir, Shehu, meaning Rabbi Meir, sover Isach Al-Isach b'chol shlosha sofanim elu. So Rabbi Meir model divrei Chachamim shechayev dalet chatos v'yoshan echad. V'nisbar shechiyuvim elu hem rak midin Isur Mosif v'kolel. And Rabbi Meir now adds l'chayvo af be'Isur hotza. Is muchach shesover Isur chal Isur af b'isvasach. He says exactly what you said, Steve. I don't understand it, but he says it. Achila zu, I guess he means of Hotzah Shabbos, Nesra Ola B'Isra Achila, Shal Yom HaKippurim. Where did I lose it? Oh, yeah, Shal Yom HaKippurim. Oh, now I understand. I'm sorry, this was clear to you from the start. You just didn't want to embarrass me, Steve, right? We're talking about Shabbos and Yom HaKippurim. That's the issue of Eini Sechalis. And it means that on Bein HaShmachos, both Isurim emerge. I think that's what he's saying. Right here, Shnei Isurim Sheboim Bevasachas Alim Shneim. That's the Chiddush of Rabbi Meir. But I'm just trying to figure out. Rabbi Meir I see. So Rabbi Meir adds to the Chachamim. Everything you said is correct, but I just want you to know that if it was Shabbos, then you add another Korban Chatas. You'll ask me, but it's Yom HaKippurim. So wait, why did the Tanakhama mention Yom HaKippurim? Let's backtrack from it. You're chayav for eating on Yom HaKippurim. And what category does that come up? That's also an Isur Kolel? Because on Yom Kippur, you're not allowed to eat anything, not just chaylev, but anything. And it's not even limited to the parts of the animal. So we have here another case of an Isur Kolel. Right? We're not including any other people, I guess, in the Easter. So it's not an Easter Moshe, but it's an Easter Kola, because now we're adding chafatzim, right? It's not only chalev that's also, but every ochel is also. Comes along Rabbi Meir and says, you know what? If you're having a heyday here, why not add another chatas of Shabbos? And even though the Easter of Yom Kippur and the Easter of Shabbos both emerge simultaneously, nevertheless, Easter, no, I'm sorry, Fakir. Since both Easter al Basachas, so when the Chachamim said Eino min Hashem, what were they objecting to? Shabbos or Yom Kippur? They could have been objecting to Yom Kippur because it says Arba Chat, right? And we only had 4 Isurim without Yom Kippur. Let me go over that. We had Chelev, we had Tameh, Shachal Kodshim, we had Me'ilah, and we had Nosa. So Me'ilah is the Asham. So how do we get Arba Chatos? There are only 3 Surim. Besides Me'ilah, all you have is Chelev, Tami Shachal Kodshim, and Nosar. Correct? So what's the 4th Chatos? It's got to be Yom Kippur. So why are the Chachamim so snug? Why are they so comfortable with Yom Kippur? Because Yom Kippur is an Isur Achila. So we should say, Ein Isur Chalal Isur. The answer is it's an Isur Kolel, because all Chatichos Sheba'olam are included under that Isur. Now Rabbi Meir adds Shabbos. What does that have to do with an Isur Achila? And the answer is because the moment that he swallows it, he's chayav mishum hotzah, because that becomes anoch. And now the Gemara wants to use Rabbi Meir to prove that even in Vas Achas, both Isurim will be Chal. Just 1 second. That doesn't make any sense. That both Isurim are Chal if it's Moses, if both Isurim Chal if it's Kolel. And now it's saying that what? That both these surim are chal if it's pasach. And again, what achas? I think it means erev Yom Kippur, erev Shabbos. Yeah, is that clear? Is that simple? I think. I know you don't sound like you're objecting. Shtika kodod. So now at this point, the Sugi Gemara is going to introduce a whole nother perspective, a whole nother avenue here of what's called ta b'dvar mitzvah. But we wanted to know man haitana de isle isur kolel isur motzif the isur v'vasach. That's going to be Rabbi Meir. Truth be told, in this brisa, tell me if you agree with me on this. Actually, it seems like it's a Mishnah increase, but in any event, it seems to me that even the Chachamim agree that Vasachas both Yisurim would be Chal. Their argument is Lomin Eino Min Hashem. It's not relevant to Yisurei Achila, but I think they would agree that you have to bring a Chatos for violating the Shabbos on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you said before, it's just coincidental that these two different ones happened at the same time, but if they had happened at different times, it would have been Katos anyways. The fact that they happened at the same time doesn't mean anything.
And that's called Eino Min Hashem. But bottom line, even though Shabbos is irrelevant to the Mishnah, according to the Chachamim, nevertheless, if you did it on Shabbos, you would incur an additional chiyuv chatos for Shabbos, even though it's Yom Kippur, and Yom Kippur and Shabbos both emerge simultaneously, and therefore we should say Ein Isur Chalal Isur. But the answer is that Rabbi Meir holds Isur Chalal Isur in the case of Vasachas, just like he holds Isur Chalal Isur in the case of Isur Kolel and in the case of Isur Motz. And that sheds a light on our Mishnah, because in our Mishnah, where we said he's chayav daled chatos, we have vasachas. Why do we have vasachas? What was the vasachas case here? Eishes Ish and Eishes Ah. Correct? Because the very moment that Reuven marries Rachel, as far as Shimon is concerned, two different Isurim are engendered v'vasachas. Eishes Ish and Eishes Ah. And later when Shimon marries Rachel's sister Leah, then we incur the additional violation of Achos Ishto, plus she became a Nida. So at that point, there's an additional this. But we're certainly addressing a case of Vasachas. And we add another Chatos to round off the number at 4 based on Eishes Ach and Eishes Ish. And Eishes Ish of Vasachas. And here we find Rabbi Meir that in the case of Yom Kippur and Shabbos, he has Isur Chalal Isur Vasachas. So is this? I'm trying to figure out back on Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. He writes here, Lo Matzinu she'echad mem yispar she'isur Chalal Isur b'chol shlosh panim b'vasachas b'isur Moshe b'isur Kolel. But I don't remember that. I thought we had a Tana who said that Isur Chalal Isur b'vasachas. But he didn't have necessarily Isur Kolel. Maybe only had Isur Moshe. And we should have made a little chart at the end of the final conclusions.
Because Rabbi Shimon didn't have Isur Kol.
Right, he didn't have Isur Kol, he only had Isur Moshe. And Rabbi Yossi had Isur Kol as well. But what did Rabbi Yossi say about Vasachas? Do we know one way or the other? We definitely had a discussion about that on Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. Let me just see if I can find the relevant line here. Oh, that was the case of if Kolim was of come on, it's at the tip of my tongue. What's it called? Malika, right? Of Malika, of a zar she'achal b'malika. There we said that it was v'vasachas, didn't we? Zar she'achal b'malika. Yeah, and the Gemara says that if Rabbi Yossi holds Bisa Kolel, he's Chayv Shtayim, then Kolshke be Isur Vasachas, he's Chayv Shtayim. So I'm not exactly sure, you have to go through the sugya with a fine-tooth comb. Why does the Gemara assume that even Rabbi Yossi doesn't have all three, Mosif, Kolel, and Vasachas? We'd have to review that. You remember that offhand? Because the Gemara seems to say that for sure. Right, Hashter Rabbi Yossi be'isur kolel b'chayv shtayim is be'isur vasachas liboy. I don't know. That's confusing to me. It seems to me that Rabbi Yossi, if he's b'chayv shtayim and isur kolel, then certainly he's b'chayv shtayim and isur vasach. So why are we racking our brains here to introduce Rabbi Meir? He says here in the Masechet, "V'lo matzidu she'echad mehem." He's referring to Rabbi Yossi and Shimon. She'isur chal isur b'chol shloshes ofan. Vasachas isur mosif isur kolel. Now, I thought that was Rabbi Yossi, but I guess I'm making a mistake. Maybe at one point in the sugya, but maybe the Gemara changes its mind. Unless this is totally Reb Chiyan Bar Kapara.
Oh.
Maybe. I feel a little guilty that we should have made a chart, a summary chart, when we were hot in the sugya, to go through. In fact, I'll show you another line here. It says here on the bottom of Lamed Gimel, Aliba de Rab. Do you see those words? Aliba de Rab Yotzi. It's about I don't know, 4 lines up from the bottom. He writes in the Masechet, "The Isur Vasachas Chalim Shnei Ha'isurim." Again, maybe that's only Bar Kapara. That I don't know. Zar sheshimesh babodas sibur Shabbos. Reb Chiya Omer Chayv Shtayim. Kafetz Rabbi Chia v'nishpa, kach shamati mi-Rebbe, shtayim. Oh, Zar Sha'acham Olika, Rabbi Chia Omer Chayev Shtayim. Like that's a case of Asach. Have to work it out that according to which shita do we reject Pavasach? If we give the Isur Vasach, this is on the top of Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yossi. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yossi. Is Rabbi Chia Savar She Rabbi Yossi Be'Isur Vasachas L'Chayev Tarti? Okay. Bar Kapara Savar Lo M'Chayev L'Chad. Oh, Afilu Be'Isur Vasachas. So it sounds to me like our Gemara looking for Rabbi Meir is reflecting the Shita Dafka Bar Kapara. Although but the Gemara itself, Bar Kapara, the Gemara answer that kasha.
At the dates where he mistakenly included the other two.
To set up what, a double chiyuv or a what? And the Gemara even works it out that all three cases of Masach, that was the business about Shtei Saros, right? That Shimei Saros and Shimish B'Shabbos is Masachas, Almum B'Tuma is B'Shabbos. Is Bishlem Rabbi Chia, K'chi Asnei L'Didei, I'll leave it to Rabbi Yossi. Ki Asnei L'Bar Kapora, I'll leave it to Rabbi Shimon. I think it comes out here that according to Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Yossi has all three, including Vasachas and Yechayev Shtayim. And then you have to understand what Bar Kapara argues. Is he arguing in Rabbi Yossi or is he arguing in Rabbi Shimon? I don't know. It does seem to me clear that there's one shita that I'll leave it to Rabbi Yossi, Yechayev Shtayim in the case of Vasach. Whether all three cases of Vasachas or not, that you could rack your brains on. But I don't understand why he says here, Lo matzinu she'echad mehem yisbar yisachal yisbar chol shloshes ofanim. That I don't understand. Okay, so that's as far as Lam Dalet is concerned. We'll lead and then we'll come back to Lamed Tes. Okay, then we'll just shut this off.